Did you know that many places in Alberta are named for Indigenous peoples or locations? Let's explore the layers of stories behind the land where you live. Consider what these names reveal about our shared history, the people, and the places themselves. On December 7, 2020, a bylaw was passed to rename and define the boundaries of Edmonton's city wards. This video highlights that process and introduces the Committee of Indigenous Matriarchs, who played a key role in determining these significant names.
There has been an absence of Indigenous voice for centuries.
We are the first peoples of this land, and it's important that, we are visible.
Here's an opportunity to honor Indigenous languages and culture and history and continued presence on these lands.
Anything worth doing is going to be hard. Learning new languages is going to be hard.
It's an invitation, I guess you could say, to get to know who we are.
We're really taking a plunge, right? We're really taking this as really being innovative and really being of our truth. So I thought, whoa, is the world ready for this, right?
I'd say it's the first time that we've done something like this. The naming committee was so excited to be a part of this project.
We were talking about the ward boundary changes, and we were in a bit of a pickle because it was going to be very confusing to keep using the ward name numbers the way that we had.
To name our electoral divisions in ways that reflect the history of not just Edmonton or Amiskwichiwaskahigan, but the north, the south, the different Indigenous communities who've journeyed here, traded here, made peace here, signed a treaty here, including the Métis and the Inuit, is a very significant gesture of reconciliation. I was very proud that Council had the vision to embrace this gift that's been given to us by our Indigenous community.
At our very first meeting, we discussed strategy. What was going to be our strategy in how are we going to select the names? What is this going to look like? But it was important that we look at our traditional teachings and guidance from elders within our communities. So I asked, is it possible to have an all-women's committee and to do it in such a way that we can bring together female Indigenous knowledge keepers, elders, educators, scholars, community folks, just to ensure that we had that inclusive voice. And again, not being also inclusive to the Indigenous cultures within Alberta as well, and the connections to Edmonton.
It's like your grandma or nigawi. Sometimes you just got to get out of their way and let them do their work, right? And they get it done.
We are all women around this table. We've been trusted, given the faith that we can do this important and meaningful work, that we have the ability, and we are thankful for that trust and faith.
Because in the beginning, when I was asked and shown the timeline and all the work, the terms of reference, I thought, my God, this is an impossible task within such a short period of time.
You don't always have to have the loudest voice or the loudest male voice in the room kind of pushing things. It can be, we can default to our women, and our women can take care of the process a lot faster than probably men could, because when you have men sitting around the table, ego gets in the way.
So we are going to get on the bus around 3 o'clock, and there's 4 sites that we are going to be visiting today. Again, we don't have the capacity to visit all 12 areas today, just given the time. We will come back. Everybody is invited to join us for supper.
It was amazing. It was amazing how that in itself kind of transformed everything. And I think even just the gathering that weekend of all of us coming together and building relationships, and we did the tour of the city and looking at 4 different sites and really engaging with one another, not just about the work that we were doing, but at a personal level. And that's important when we think about this work that we do, is that how are we building on our relationships with one another? How can I trust you? How can I know and understand where you're coming from?
I was in Charles Camsell Hospital in 1952. I grew up, I was in the same ward as Inuit children. And my dad used to speak Denisuchline with me, so I knew Denisuchline. And then my playmates were all Inuit, so I learned to speak Inuit.
A lot of the people from our area were made up a good majority of the TB patients at the Charles Camsell. And so it's like to honor them.
We stayed in the Charles Camsell Hospital as well, and he stayed there so long, and he made lots of Cree friends. He came out of Charles Camsell Hospital speaking Cree, beside his own Inuvialuktun language.
I think in our deliberations, this is one of the only places that we're visiting today that has ties to the Inuit. And so as we're thinking about names, this might be one of the locations that we want to designate using the Inuit language.
It was almost instantly, you know, before I went consulting with other Inuit elders and people that I know in my language work circle, but I thought of anangnak, because anangnak simply means breath, but it's also spirit. So spirit of breath, breath, spirit, they seem to go hand in hand. And it was very fitting for the type of patients that Charles Camsell housed.
On my mom's side, I'm a Bruno, and we were also like Papastew descendants, or part of that band. And so I have a handful of ancestors that are buried down in Rossdale Flats. So that's a significant place for me in the city, and it was important. And I also live in the ward that is now, will hopefully be Odaimin. So it was important for me that we pay tribute to them in some way with the name too. And Odaimin is an Anishinaabe word for strawberry. And so I'm not Anishinaabe, I have Anishinaabeg ancestry, but in my understanding through Cree language, it means heartberry. And so Ode is the word that means heart.
It represents the gathering place at the very heart of the city, where our city hall and our civic institutions are. And it's been nice to see Councillor McKean pick that up with a twinkle in his eye to be able to tell that story, because it's so much more significant than Ward 6, right? And it's even more meaningful, I think, than downtown.
What are the given? Like, what is something that we cannot necessarily it's the names that are going to stay within these recommendations. And we knew that it was honoring our LGBTQ2+ community, and as well as honoring the Papaschase Band.
Papastew, who was the chief of the Papaschase First Nation, which, you know, there's been a lot of conversation about Frank Oliver. We've learned his name, and he was involved in some dubious practices that dispossessed the band and its people of their lands. And so it's important for us to learn the name of the chief who was representing people who were wronged historically, as a way of honoring the Papaschase Band and its people and its history.
Terwilliger Park, which is byhtwawin, the land of the Thunderbirds, because the Thunderbird for us represents water, right? And we as women, we are keepers of that water, because without our mothers, we wouldn't be here, because the first
time that we're born through our mothers, it was that water broke, right? In our prophecies, we are told that when our women return back to the land to break water, give birth on the land, only then will the buffalo return, is what we're reminded in our prophecies.
What they had found was actually that there were quite a few mounds of broken rocks. And although the archaeologists didn't understand what that was, we know that that's actually, for us, we know that those are part of a sweat lodge.
Creator created these sacred sites for his workers, placed his workers to help us. And the Terwilliger Park is where the Thunderbird was placed on the south side, because it's our belief that door our ancestors come in from. That's that portal, they come in through the south side, right? And if you take an aerial view, it's shaped like a Thunderbird. Byhtwawin is what we said. Ogimau Biesu at first, right? Like the chief of the winged beings. Oh no, grandchild, that's not quite. It's okay. All right, okay. Biesu, yeah, that's you're close. And then one grandfather helped us and said Byhtwawin osim Byhtwawin. Yeah. So that's what they said. Creator had named it. We haya, we haya, hey, we ya, hey, ya, hey, ya, hey. We forget the importance of, you know, and Roxanne Tatus has taught me this very earlier on, was ensure that you're always giving thanks and make sure that you're always offering protocol for these projects and everything that you do, because they guide you, and they guide you in a really good way. So ceremony is, I find, we are trying to build this resurgence within our communities. Ceremony is healing. You know, at the root of everything, ceremony is what brings us all together, and it ensures that we do things in the appropriate way.
It's very ambitious to want to name anything, let alone 12 different Indigenous names. When I had spoken at City Council, I had the full intention of encouraging them to take on some Indigenous names. I wasn't sure at the very beginning. I was very skeptical whether or not we could do all 12. But thankfully, through ceremony and things like that, we were given the path forward and the guidance to achieve that task.
So there was a lot to consider, especially with the pronunciation of the names and how these names have meaning, because there is spirit within the language.
This relates to the project about ward boundary names, because it is the women who came forward. It's the women who led and guided and directed this, and it's the women who gathered the wisdom and the knowledge and connected communities in order to gift these names to the people of the city of Edmonton.
The ceremony that's behind the package of names coming to us as a bundle is sacred and does come from that knowledge and come from the ceremony and the protocol, which is informed by traditions that run back hundreds or thousands of years here on these lands, and that's not to be trifled with.
When you can do projects like this that are Indigenous led, they get it done, and it's done in the most meaningful way. And I think that, you know, other cities or towns, well, I guess it would be cities, but even towns are able to incorporate languages and names within their spaces. And it's important. You know, we are the first peoples of this land, and it's important that, you know, we are visible.
And so when we include Indigenous history, Indigenous languages, and Indigenous peoples into our stories, not as something from the past, but as something alive today, then we get to really find out who we are. And that is a welcoming and a loving people.
Way ha, ya, hey.
Here is the map of Edmonton's 12 wards. Each ward now carries a name that reflects the rich history and Indigenous heritage of the region, ranging from Nakota Ishga to Spapomatapi. These names were gifted to the city by Indigenous matriarchs to honor Indigenous languages, histories, and connections to this land. Nakota Ishga means the people. This name connects to the Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation and reminds us that Indigenous peoples have lived and traveled in this region for a very long time. Arnanik means breath of life. This name honors Inuit people, especially those who came to Edmonton for tuberculosis treatment far from their homes. Testawawianik means the in-between people. This Cree name honors Two-Spirit and LGBTQ2+ people and reminds us that every person has a place in the community. Dene means people of land and water. This name honors Dene peoples and their connections to the North Saskatchewan River. Odaman means strawberry or heartberry. It represents the heart of Edmonton, with the river running through the city like life flowing through a heart. Métis honors the Métis people, a distinct Indigenous nation with deep roots in the fur trade, river lots, farming, and Edmonton's early history. Sipawianik means River Cree people. This name honors the Enoch Cree Nation and their long connection to the North Saskatchewan River. Papatapi means large woodpecker. It honors Chief Papatop, also known as Papaschase, and the Papaschase people of the Edmonton area. Pihisawin means land of the thunderbirds. This name connects to the powerful thunderbird and the importance of water, life, and ceremony. Ipihiku is a Blackfoot name connected to the bison moving north. It reminds us how important the bison were to Plains Indigenous peoples. Carhio means tall, beautiful forest in Mohawk. This name honors Michael Carhio and the Michel First Nation. Spapomatapi means star person. This Blackfoot name honors the Manitou Stone, also called the Iron Creek Meteorite, a sacred stone connected to ceremony and stories of the sky.
Allendale is situated within the ward of Papastew. To better understand the history and the deeper meaning behind this name, we invite you to watch this video featuring Dr. Noella Steinhauer.
Papastew. Papastew was a highly respected leader of the Papaschase Band number 136. His name in English translates to large woodpecker. Papastew was also known as Papaschase. When the band signed into Treaty 6 in 1877, they were promised 249 square miles of land. They instead received 40 square miles. Originally, they were to settle in present-day Old Strathcona. However, settlers felt that it was a little too close, so the band agreed to move further south to the Millwoods area. After more than a decade of hardship, many members either moved to other First Nations, were removed by Indian Affairs, or surrendered land under questionable circumstances. Papastew moved to St. Paul de Métis later in life. Papaste's descendants number in the thousands, some who live in the Edmonton area. Papastew. His name in English translates to large woodpecker.
Papastew, or Papaschase, was a respected leader of the Papaschase Band, whose name means large woodpecker. Despite facing historical displacement and pressure, survivors of the band continue their important work to reclaim their community and land today.